effect. Okay? If you have questions that you would like to ask the candidates, you do not have to. Would you please, if you have not already done so, fill out the cards on the back table and bring them up here and put them in the magic box. And Polly Balzer, who is our moderator, thank you for coming back, Polly. Appreciate it. We'll be asking the questions. Each candidate will have the opportunity to be the first person to answer a question. We're just going to go kind of in a round robin type way. And what am I forgetting? Oh, each candidate will have 2 minutes if he or she so chooses to make opening remarks. Each candidate will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer the question. Polly is our timekeeper. And then at the end, the candidates will have, again, 2 minutes to make the closing comment, again, if he or she so chooses. We are going to go until one of two things happen. Either we hit noon, or we run out of questions, whichever comes first, okay? If you think of a question during the meet and greet, the session, please feel free to go to the back, fill out a card, and bring it up and put it in the match box, okay? Before we begin, does anyone have any general question or questions? You're an easy crowd this morning, thank you.
It's Saturday.
Damn right it is. Okay, I'm going to then, again, Polly is our moderator. Again, if you have questions you want to fill out, please put them on the cards in the back and then bring them to the front. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to the candidates.
Can I ask just one question? Can you give us a quick lesson on the microphones? Do we just turn them on and turn them off? But yet from what I understand, you got to make sure you turn them off, otherwise they can mess up.
You can get some feedback, yes, if you leave them on. So thank you for that. Just real quickly, the candidates drew, in case you're wondering why they are seated where they are seated. The candidates drew for the seating order for this morning's event. It was random, so that is why Ms. McFadden is at one end and Mr. McCabe is at the other, and the others are seated where they are seated. Okay? Thank you. All right, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over and we'll start with, are you ready, timekeeper? Sure. Okay. All right, so we're going to start with Ms. McFadden. She will have 2 minutes, and we're going to work our way through the list of candidates. And then once that's completed, we will start the first question. Again, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. If you're watching at home or wherever, thank you for tuning in.
Okay. Okay, is it working? Okay, I've had problems with these in the past. So everybody, thank you for coming out this morning. I know it's early, but I do appreciate everybody coming here. I'm Kelly McFadden. My family has owned property on the island since 1996. 3 years ago, I began attending PIPOA meetings. 2 years ago, I founded Island Issues and later Discuss Island Issues. 2 years ago, I formed the Island Squad to help clean up our community. 2 years ago, I began live streaming and filming board meetings. 2 years ago, I teamed up with a group of members to form the Arch to return bylaw amending rights solely to the members. And we achieved that historic goal. A few months ago, I made the decision to take the next step and ask the members to trust me with a board seat. I did not come to this decision lightly. I write and publish my positions. My writings give you an understanding of how I will work on this board. You can read all that I have published over the last 3 years on my website, kellyforpipoa.com. I carefully research issues, and I do not discuss a problem unless I can bring a solution to the community. I am Kelly McFadden. I am my own person, someone who will follow the law. This is your board seat, and I ask you to trust me with your vote.
Robert, 1 minute. I've been given a note that there is a maroon Chevy Trailblazer. The lights are on. So just, I'm sorry to interrupt, but hopefully this will save someone some grief later on. Again, questions, if you have them, please pull them out and move to the front. I'm so sorry, Robert, please.
Not at all. I'm all for saving power. So yeah, I'm Robert Algeo, the Coast Guard, U.S. Coast Guard that is. Transferred me here in 2004 to serve the last of my 30 years of service in the Coast Guard. They gave me a little over 30 years, a couple months. Really loved it, didn't want to retire, but I also love living here, and I'm glad I ended up here, stayed here. Could have transferred back to Florida, where I originally was from. I've served in the Coast Guard in coastal communities all over the country, the Gulf Coast, the Florida Atlantic coast, even New Orleans. Here, like I say, flew over all this area. Really fortunate to be able to do that, and served in California as well. I started going to POA meetings my first year here, within a few months, in 2004, because I was in another POA in Pembroke Pines, Florida. Beautiful community. And yeah, there was drama there too. There's drama, from what I can tell, in every homeowners association or property owners association anywhere around the country. So I also volunteered quite a bit with the homeowners association here, the property owners association, with the beautification of our island community before our POA raised the rates and started getting enough money to hire some professional landscapers. We took down 8-foot tall sunflowers and cactus in these entrance medians all over the island. And it was really something for those of you who weren't here back 14, 15 years ago to see watermelon growing amongst 8-foot tall weeds in your entrance medians to $1 million homes. It was pretty crazy. I've been a part of the POA, aware of what's going on with the POA throughout my volunteer service with the POA, and more recently, as more and more people got involved, I got more and more involved too over the last 3-4 years. And I'm here to hopefully be elected to help to make things better out here. That's what I'm running for. Thank you. Oh, perfect. Oh, power.
Thank you, Polly, for getting up early. And Jim, thank you for hosting this. Thank the folks for getting up early, coming out here, and thank the video world for paying attention to this later on. It'll be long, and I hope you are able to watch the whole thing.
It's straightforward, please.
Okay, thank you. My name is Dan Brown. Yes, ma'am. I'm a retired banker with BBVA Compass Bank, and I'm still on their advisory board of directors. My statement of qualifications and belief is published. I believe everybody was sent these in the mail, so I'm not going to go over that again. I'd ask you to please look at that. What I believe I can bring to this organization and to the board is financial expertise and organization of that nature to the board. In addition to my statement of qualifications, I would have added it, but I think that this homeowners association has to find a way to provide value, a value proposition to the various subdivisions. I think if we don't, we're going to be subject to having other subdivisions try to do what Steve Pines just did. That was very disheartening to me for that group to go out. I'd like to thank Kelly, Robert, Judith, and Brian for volunteering to do this. I bet, like you, some of your friends said, "What in the world are you doing?"
Yep.
And my response to them is, if not me, who? Okay, I have the time to do this, and I think it's important, and I'm looking forward to helping the organization out. With the exception of my statement of qualifications, which I did post on all the Facebook sites, I have a Facebook site called Dan Brown for PIPOA. That's a Facebook site. I don't plan on running a negative campaign. These are my neighbors, and I'd ask that my supporters adopt my mantra, and don't do that as well, and adopt my mantra. A gentleman is someone who can disagree without being disagreeable.
Ms. Cutright?
Good morning. I'm Judith Cutright, and I first want to thank you for taking an active interest in the POA, all of you, and also to thank our current board members for your dedicated volunteer service. I also feel very privileged to be up here amongst these accomplished professionals and with varied expertise. My expertise is in the field of communications and best business practices. As you read in the newsletter, I founded my own company in 1999. 1996, and I have assisted global corporations, nonprofits, and higher educational institutions in promoting their services and training their employees. What I hadn't mentioned is that I have a BA from Indiana University and a master's in public relations from George Washington University. I also have served as the director of a couple of nonprofits way back when, and also served on various boards and committees as a volunteer. So I am very familiar with the Roberts Rules of Order. I also have a background in TV and radio broadcasting and manager of communications for a major corporation. So to me, communications is key in fulfilling the mission and in upholding the values of the POA. I also, right now, after my husband passed away, I have more time to serve my community, and to me, volunteering is a responsibility of every citizen to serve your community, your home community, as well as your country. So that's why I'm here. And I think communications will also help, as well as best practices, in opening dialogue, providing transparency, having timely information to our homeowners, and I would like to see more interactive dialogue in that respect. So that's why I'm here, and I hope that I'll have the opportunity to serve you, and let's make it happen.
Ms. McCabe, I could understand every word of yours.
Thank you.
Let me see if I can just take that.
Good.
Hi, I'm Brian McCabe. It is a pleasure to be here today. I look out in this audience. I know a lot of you. I look forward to meeting the rest of you. I've been here going on 3 years. I am an attorney. I've been practicing over 40 years. My practice has been almost exclusively in public law and public finance. So I represent the school district, city councils.
Turn off yours, Judith, and then his will be done.
City councils, commissioners courts, and I've done a lot of work in the 501 area of the Internal Revenue Code, which I know is vital to this organization. I've represented and made a lot of 501 corporations. So what I believe I can bring to the board is my campaign is the law. First off, any analysis of what the POA is going to do, we've got to look at federal, Internal Revenue Code, state law. We are subject, we are residents of the city council. We have to look at our covenants, bylaws, and our charter, and then we can move forward to say, okay, now if we check all those boxes, what is it we want to do? And I think I can be instrumental in that. I love living here. One thing I learned when I did retire, I didn't really retire, I'm still a counsel to the firm, is that I can practice in shorts and flip-flops and t-shirts and nobody knows and nobody cares. As long as I keep up with my email, as long as I keep up with my documents, as long as I participate in calls and conference calls, it's cool. My regret is I've been doing this for the last 10 years, but I didn't realize that. So I am pleased to be here. I do thank the board, and I do thank Jim, Polly, underpaid, for volunteering to do this morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, and we're going to start with the questions now. They are in here sort of randomly, and so I'm just going to switch them around and pick out the first one that I go to. Let's start with Ms. McFadden. In the past, the POA was dominated by the, quote, good old boys system. Will you pledge to continue the current efforts to improve and professionalize the POA operation?
We've seen a lot of improvement, I think, in the last year. We've added Executive Director Smock, and he is working very hard to upgrade. We have a lot of old technology, just a lot of things in our community that need to be upgraded. Why it was that or got that way, I can't speculate on what has happened in the past. What I am happy to see is that now in the future, we seem to be moving forward to upgrading our technology and getting our POA to be much more responsive to the community. That you do that with increases in information, more town halls. I was happy to hear Judith's involvement in communications. We are sorely lacking in communications, and that is one thing that I do want to see improve on in the future.
Mr. Algeo?
To the same question, yes. And I'll add that, you know, I mentioned that I used to volunteer for the Homeowners Advisory Committee. We used to go around and do the landscaping that the POA didn't have any money to do back then. And that was all funded under something that was called the Beautification Trust Fund. It didn't seem to be very trustworthy, and I could smell it. At that time, I was 27, 28 years working in part as a federal law enforcement agent in the U.S. Coast Guard, and I could smell the corruption. I didn't see it. It wasn't on the surface, but you knew it was there. And eventually that got uncovered, and that started breaking the egg open of that shell that question is referring to. That sort of network of like, it's okay to do this, no, it's okay to do that. No, it's not okay. It's just not okay. That's it. Thanks.
Mr. Brown?
You know, the good old boy system suggests that there's no transparency, things are done in the background. I think that everybody up here, the current board, is probably committed to transparency. So I don't think we'll have a good old boy system, but I do believe we can have some upgrades in our technology. You know, at the last board meeting, there was some discussion about a charge that was put on somebody's personal card. And I understand the need to do that to basically make sure you have the right product so you didn't lose it because of external circumstances. But things like a purchasing card and updated treasury management systems here on the island would go a long way in eliminating that, and also allowing registers in every purchase to be seen by everybody in real time right after they're ready. Thank you.
Ms. Cutright?
I pledge to all of you to conduct myself in an ethical manner and to treat everyone with dignity and respect. And I think that's part of being a professional. I'm very pleased to see that the new staff has really stepped up to the plate, and I think the improvements that are being made are significant, and we'll continue on that path. I also believe that we really need to have a well-informed homeowners association, so that and that includes then updating technology, and others have mentioned, so that we can keep you informed and have open dialogue with you. And you know, we have so many wonderful professionals out amongst us that we should call upon to ask advice and input on various issues. So I would like to see that happen.
Mr. McCabe?
Use your mic. I want to use the mic that works. Thank you. I agree. I mean, the board is making progress. The technology can be improved, and I want to particularly single out Kelly and Jim for filming these things. That has made probably one of the more profound differences that I have seen since I've been here. The fact that you are filming this, if I got a question 2 weeks or 2 months or 3 months later about, well, what happened? I can go back to your webpage, so thank you guys for doing that. That's right. Personally, I would like to see that as a POA function. I recognize that you guys are doing it on your own, and again, thank you. That's been a big step. The members of the board now are making progress. We are well on the way. We don't already have an audit. We are well on the way. We don't already have a budget. These are things that perhaps in the past weren't as diligently dealt with, but I think are being dealt with now in a very professional manner. I can keep talking, I'm a lawyer. I think I'm almost running.
Thank you. Okay, next question is going to go to Mr. Algeo.
Oh. Uh-oh.
What do you think are the successes of the 2018 board? Tell us what you think about all the quote-unquote drama surrounding the POA.
Yeah, gosh, I mean, we have a better POA now than we had a couple years ago, a few years ago as well, going back over the last 10, 15 years. So many things. As far as drama, like I say, I mean, has anybody ever gone to any other HOA or POA meetings anywhere in the country? I mean, there is drama. That just comes with it, you know? Nobody wants it. Wouldn't everybody just like a nice, smooth thing where everything works great and everybody gets what they want? Yeah. But when people don't and people have differences, well, some people call that drama. You know, if you think you can get no drama out of any homeowners association, tell me where that is. I'd like to hear about it. I'd like to know about it a lot more. I'm really glad that we are turning this POA into the direction that it's been going. And as Mr. McCabe pointed out so generously, it's in large part to it being so open now with the transparency of all these recordings so that things are on record and things aren't hidden. And from here we can move forward so much better. Thank you.
Mr. Brown?
Thank you. I think some of the successes, and I've probably missed some, but the obvious ones are, you know, we made some progress on the canal markers. They seem to be in, or at least, you know, almost all the way in. The parks, the park has been completed, and I think we hired a good executive director. Jim seems like he'll do a fine job here. As far as the drama goes, I'm going to suggest that, you know, I've talked to the remaining board members in this group of people here over time, with the exception of Judith, but I know Judith from other places. I don't think this, whatever board gets elected, I think the drama will start to melt away. That is my sincere hope, and one that I am sincerely hoping happens, and I promise you I'm going to do everything in my power to make that happen. Thank you.
Ms. Cutright?
I'm all for focusing on our mission and solutions and not the drama. And I think that if we institute best business practices, then we can eliminate a lot of the drama. And the more we inform homeowners, the more issues are resolved early on, and we can prevent them from occurring. So as far as successes, I think I agree with Dan. You know, the staffing is stepping up to the plate, and that's going to make a big difference in carrying out our mission. And I also think the gardens that are also helping to bring the community together again. There's so many other things I'm sure we'll get to that I think will help to bring our community together again and get us more active and proactive.
Mr. McCabe?
Yeah, the board has made a lot of progress. I just talked about that a minute ago in the sense of an audit, a budget, communication, which I did. And I agree with Bob. I have been to literally thousands of school boards, commissioners, courts, city councils, and my goodness, I've never been to one yet where there wasn't. I've been to those where we had to have 2 policemen, not just one, because it gets pretty, when it goes into high school, you've got a lot of people out there that really don't like that. And you got a lot of people that really want it, so I'm used to that. One thing I hope I can do is to turn volume down on the drama, that we can work together. We are a community. We all live here because we want to. I think 95% plus of us are here because we chose to be here, not because anybody put a gun to our head and said, you have to move to the island. I just don't see that. So, also, as Judith said, we've got a great welcome out here. We've got people who, in their, I'm going to call it prior lives, did all kinds of cool stuff. After the hurricane, I visited with my neighbor who I had no idea was an extremely competent meteorologist. He explained the dynamics, he explained the winds. We've got some really good people out here. And I think continuing to use those folks to help us. And I think the drama will start to be turned down because the communication, transparency that has been ongoing for quite a while, I think we'll turn it down.
Ms. McFadden?
Lots of good things have happened over the year. And they've all mostly been touched on, but the audit, which has now resulted in much better financial controls in our office, the implementation of background checks, so we don't have to go through what we went through before. The markers, I know that was a very contentious situation, but the markers are in, and probably, I agree with most of them, the biggest thing that's happened is the hiring of Executive Director Smock. And I think even more importantly, the hiring of an assistant for Mr. Smock, because the executive director of as large of a corporation as we are has a lot to do. And I know a lot of the complaints had to do with just things not getting done necessarily in a timely fashion. Well, it wasn't because, you know, Mr. Smock wasn't trying hard. It's a lot to do. And so now that he has an assistant, I'm very convinced that a lot of those things are going to start happening in a more timely fashion. As to the drama, every one of us who moved here has made a significant emotional and financial investment in this island. And because of that, you know, people are concerned about our investment, and you can get a little passionate with your opinions. And I think with the, okay, thanks.
All right, the next question is going to go to Mr. Brown. In the past, the POA failed to follow the law. Will you pledge to follow the law even if it is an inconvenience?
Yeah.
Yes.
Ms. Cutright?
Absolutely and always, but no question about it.
Mr. McCabe?
Obviously my answer is yes. I told you a minute ago, when I filter anything I do with my clients and my law firm, whatever, the first thing you do is you look at federal, IRS, state, county, city, local, covenants, bylaws. And again, you have to check off all those boxes as being yes, we're in compliance. Then you reach the issue. So that's my analysis, and that will continue to be my analysis.
Ms. McFadden?
This is like an IQ test, right?
Yeah, I would say
So
that.
I think my answer is yes. You know, I've been talking about following the law for a long time. So, you know, absolutely. I've read our articles of incorporation, I've read our bylaws, I've read, if not all of the 32 covenants, hopefully still 32, I've read most of them. And it's a lot of information to take on, but it's very important. These are the documents that we have to abide by to run our corporation. So, and they absolutely must be followed to the letter.
Mr. Algeo?
Yes, of course, absolutely follow the law. And I'd like to add, in addition to following just the law and our proper bylaws, articles of incorporation, covenants, there are ethical considerations as well. That kind of stuff that I was talking about when I volunteered for this organization, and I could sense that there were things that were just being said, like, oh no, it's okay to do that. Well, then what exactly is being, and they won't show you, they won't tell you. You have to be in the administration to know really what they were doing, but you knew it wasn't right. You knew it wasn't good. And maybe all of it wasn't a violation of law, but a lot of it was a violation of ethics. So that's it, yeah.
The next question is going to go to Ms. Cutright. What compliance standards would you endorse, such as parking cars in the front yard?
Again, we need to follow the bylaws and covenants of the POA. What I would like to see may differ somewhat, and again, we can throw that out to the homeowners to see if they would like to amend any of those covenants and those compliance issues. We do have a compliance committee that's working very hard to ensure that we follow the standards that are set by the POA and all the homeowners that exist here. Would I like to see, I would prefer not to see rusted trailers out in someone's yard and debris, trash. I would like to see that we really implement in the various standards that we already have set. For instance, people keeping up their homes and painting them and trimming the bushes. You know, part of the mission is that we have safety issues that we are supposed to make sure that we follow so that everyone remains safe and this is a healthy environment. So those are kinds of standards that we really need to make sure are implemented. And for instance, if you're at an intersection and there's overgrown bushes and you can't see, that's a safety issue. Those bushes need to be trimmed, for instance. And keeping our canals clean. People like to swim in the canals. That's a safety issue for their health and welfare. We need to keep those. As far as the bulkheads too, I mean, we need to maintain and repair bulkheads. And so far, I could want to.
Mr. McCabe?
Thank you. We have a unique architecture out here. There are some people who have a fantastic backyard. Unless you get out of the canals, you don't really realize how beautiful it is. But they have a little tiny front yard, so they kind of have to park. I think the car that's parked out in the front yard that has an expired registration that we have birds nesting in, yeah, we got to do something about that. But some people really don't seem to have a choice. And if they got a rock yard and they want to do it, I don't see where that affects me or the values of the item. Insofar as compliance generally, I think right now that it's in the process of being revised. And it needs to be fair, understandable, and to a certain degree, depending on review, how enforceable and what that enforcement is going to be. So I look forward to seeing those reports if I am elected, even if I'm not, because I'm like you, I'm a property owner. I want this to be a quality community. I want the values of my home to be maintained and to go up.
Ms. McFadden?
Compliance comes out of the covenants. Our covenants define everything that we're allowed to do on our properties, starting with the day the house is built, right up to what you can do in your yard. There are a few things that are specific in our covenants that are very easy to include in any compliance situation. Probably the biggest example is it specifically says in our covenants, you can't let the weeds take over your yard. The issue over the last couple of years was a phrase in the covenants that said, "and other unsightly articles." And that is a very subjective term, and that was the term that was used to expand compliance to basketball nets and bicycles, and and we all remember the brown palm fronds. Okay? It was that overreach of the unsightly articles, which is why we're now going back and trying to rework these things to a something that is reasonable, that is acceptable to our community. My take is if it's in the covenants, then the POA has the authority to enforce it. If there's something in the community that is not in covenants.
Mr. Algeo?
Yes, thank you, Polly. I agree. It's the covenants. It's really about the covenants. In fact, we used to get the mantra from a previous executive director of the POA before a couple others, going back, who used to say, like a mantra, what was it? The covenants are the rules and the rules are the covenants. That's what she said. The covenants are the rules and the rules are the covenants. And it was just like that, When it comes to, say, a trailer, a boat with on the trailer parked in somebody's front yard, it just takes me back to about 4 POA meetings ago when a person in charge of one of the committees for the POA was not a board member, and he was railing against people parking their boats or boat trailers up against their bedroom windows of their house. Well, it turned out that he had a sunken boat from the hurricane, and it was causing a washout of the bulkhead from the main canal at the base of the bulkhead, so he had to extract that boat. Where did he put it? He put it on a trailer. It's a 30-foot boat. He backed it right up to his front bedroom windows, on my street. I don't care, but I mean, hey, it's hypocrisy to say, but unless it's me, in that situation. Well, he was kind of forced. He needed to get his boat out of the water, and he parked it right up against his bedroom window with a mast out to the street. Again, the covenants don't say you can't do that. But it's just, be careful of the hypocritical statements that people will make until it comes time where you have to have something that you want that is, that's okay with the covenants, but some people might not like.
Mr. Brown?
I think sometimes less is more. We're supposed to have a high-quality marine community. That's what our bylaws call for. I think that's subject to interpretation. We're a marine community. We're not going to be like King's Crossing, two different animals completely. The expectations here should be different. I do believe that our association should revisit our compliance standards. I think if we don't, we're going to, I think that the people in the community have spoken loud and clear when Sea-Pines pulled out, that compliance and oversight of compliance is an issue that they didn't like the way we were doing. I will tell you this, I've lived in 10 different subdivisions. 2 of the best subdivisions, the best maintained subdivisions that my wife and I have ever lived in did not have HOAs.
The next question is going to go to Mr. McCabe.
Oh my God.
If elected to this board, then immediately following the results of the election, you will attend your first board meeting. For your first vote, you will be asked to select a president. Have you thought about this important decision, and will you share your thoughts with the members today?
Gladly. Yeah, that's the way, my understanding, I agree with the question. After the vote is had, if I am fortunate enough to be elected, the first thing is the organizational meeting. At that point, nominations are made and votes are taken on the officers. I have no idea at this point who wants to be an officer, who's an officer already, that may want to change their jobs, whom will be nominated. So I don't know. I'm open. I think the current board members, people up here, will make a wise decision, but it is impossible for me to commit. 1, I'm not elected. 2, the meeting hasn't occurred. 3, nominations have not been made. So I can't tell you who I can vote for. Those things have to happen.
Ms. McFadden?
I will take a little different take on that than Mr. McCabe. I have come out very strongly. I've made a public position about the fact that if elected to this board, I support the current leadership. I don't agree with every decision they've made, and I wish things had happened a little faster, but I am happy with the overall leadership. And if elected to this board, I will vote for President Marvin Jones to remain as president of the PIPOA.
Mr. Algeo?
Same with me. I would also vote, presuming that he wants to be president of this POA for another year, Marvin Jones, as well as Vice President Marta Sprout and Treasurer Dr. Retired Navy Captain Nick Colosi.
Mr. Brown?
I'm going to wait and see what the voters want. And I think that by the voting of who gets on the board and by the level and the margin they win by, it will tell me whether they want the status quo or whether they want change.
Ms. Cutright?
First of all, I want to say that I really respect and thank you for the service of the current leadership. I know you've worked very hard and are very dedicated, and I really believe you've done a great job in your service. I would like to get feedback from the membership as far as who they would like to see lead the group. And, I also would like to see who has the interest and the passion in serving. It's a big commitment, and you have to give and be willing to give in many ways. So I would also like to see who else might want to step up to that plate, and if the current members are interested in serving again or not, or maybe they'd like to take a break. All of that is an if for me. So I really would like, though, I think bottom line, to get input from the homeowners.
The next question is going to go to Ms. McFadden. Last year, the board passed a resolution requiring background checks for employees and board members. What is your opinion of this resolution?
I was obviously fully in support of the pass of the employee background checks. It was a long time coming. The event we had when we discovered that our bookkeeper was a felon that could have been discovered with a background check made that all the more necessary. I know that all of the current employees have all undergone and passed a background check, and I'm very happy that that is put in place now. What was also passed by the board was board background checks, and I know that's a little iffier, just because the concern is it doesn't specify that that's a requirement in our bylaws for serving. But several of our board members have voluntarily submitted to the background check. A couple of weeks ago, I contacted Executive Director Smock, and I asked him at my expense to put me through the PIPOA standard background check. And I did get it back, and I am happy to say that I am fully qualified to sit on this board, and I will be posting this on my website for everybody to see.
Mr. Algeo?
Okay, I'd just like to say that I'm obviously not as smart or nor as well informed as Mrs. McFadden. I didn't know that we could just, I want to get a background check. Can I get a background check? Yeah.
$40.
I'll pay it, $40. Yeah, I'll skip a dinner.
Mr. Brown?
Yeah, I've recently had two board positions that I was on, and I assume I passed because they put me on. So I don't really have a problem with it. I think, there's some clauses in the state statute 209 that talk about board members can only be removed for various, and I carry them around with me. I actually have it highlighted, but it's probably not a bad idea.
Ms. Cutright?
I think, again, we're talking about best business practices, and this is one of them, that all of the staff members should have a background check. Also, I would certainly volunteer for one. One of my first jobs was with the Civil Service Commission, and I know the FBI did an extensive background check on me, so I'm more than willing to go through it again as need be, and look forward to it. So.
Mr. McCabe?
I agree with the background checks for the employees. When that resolution passed, I called one of my legal assistants up in Dallas and said, run one for me. I just want to see what it says. I got it back. It's 188 pages long. The reason being is that over my career, I have created many corporations, many limited liability companies. So all of that stuff's in there. All the stuff about my car, my house, my neighbors, where I live, where I used to live. It's all in there, my kids. So I have no problem with it. There's just too much personal information, and I was somewhat aghast to find out how much information Westlaw or Alexis could do. Insofar as the one I think we're talking about is, are we convicted felons or misdemeanors? Sure. I mean, I've already got a page that says that, and obviously as a licensed attorney, if I was, I would be disbarred. So my license is renewable annually. So I'm not going to share the 188 pages. Y'all don't care to read all that stuff. And but insofar as that very tiny portion that says you've got no criminal background, I'll share that.
The next question is going to go to Mr. Algeo. This is a repeat. Would you be willing to submit to a background check? I will set this one aside and give you another question. Do you believe that if a board member has engaged in stolen valor, that's in quotes, and is found to have lied about work, their history is enough cause for them to be removed from office?
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I would say so. I mean, if somebody's being dishonest on their resume or stolen valor is usually something that's used with regard to a military record or career. or a misrepresentation thereof. And yeah, no, that's one of the worst things right there. Thanks.
Mr. Brown?
Yeah, I'm not really sure about what exactly stolen valor means, but I guess it means that you misrepresent yourself in trying to get something. And I guess if we were the board, I mean, if we as candidates were fraudulent in what we're stating we did, or we accomplished things, or yeah, hopefully it would come out before the election. But granted, you don't have media outlets doing in-depth investigations on people and candidates. I think we had a mayor's race a couple of years ago, which proved that out. So, yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Ms. Cutright?
Well, I think stolen valor is shameful, and I think we have to follow the bylaws, though, and when we talk about removing a board member for cause, and I think you were speaking of board members, I really would hope that if you're talking about a candidate, that they would remove themselves prior to the election. But it's a misdemeanor or a felony as it's defined as cause on the board. So I think it would be a matter of, again, involving the homeowners and getting their approval if it was a recommendation to remove someone who hasn't been above board. It's an ethical issue, and you need to be ethical if you want to serve.
Mr. McCabe?
I'm not sure what stolen valor means either, so I'm just going to use a simple definition. If I lied on my resume and said I was a lawyer and I wasn't, if I said I lived over in Hawksness Bay, sure. If I, well, I did. But, again, we've answered the background check question. I think grounds for removal are felony or misdemeanor. And then we get into a really squirrely of what is stolen valor. Stolen valor. As Dan pointed out, Corpus went through that a couple, 3 years ago, and we had a mayor that lasted all of 37 or 38 days because people found out he didn't do all the things he said he had done. He didn't have the degrees he said he had. I don't think anybody up here has done that. I don't think anybody would. So the grounds for removal are felony or misdemeanor. And stolen value, I'm just not sure what it means, other than the obvious, which is, materially misleading and lying to people about what you've done, where you've been. That's all I
Ms. McFadden?
I think if something like that came out before the election, I think the election would take care of that itself. If a situation came out after the election, it would depend on, again, if this is something that they're convicted of, and if it's convicted, whether it is a felony or a misdemeanor. If it is a felony, well, then it's very clear. They're not eligible to sit on our board. That's 209 is very clear about that. If it's a misdemeanor, now we're just getting into something that's a little murkier. The board cannot vote to remove a board member for being convicted of a misdemeanor. The only people who can do that are the homeowners. The homeowners would have to decide if the situation rose to the level that they wanted to remove that board member, and they'd have to be given that choice in a vote.
The next question is going to go to Mr. Brown. If a board member has failed to live up to their fiduciary duty and purposefully provided false information, should they be censored or removed as a board member? Okay.
We just can't answer that
I
one.
think we
Pretty much
covered
the
that.
same question.
Have you received the POA books? What is your opinion? If no, why not?
You mean the financial statements when you say books? I guess I would just assume you mean the financial statements. I've looked at the financial statements as published at the meetings, which are compiled statements. And my thoughts are that we've got $9+ million. I've made some recommendations to Nick about how maybe we could represent them a little bit better. moving some of the UBS CDs above the line, not out of other assets. But yes, I've looked at them, and I've looked at the income and expenses, and I've listened to the meetings where we've had our auditors come, and it seems like we're in getting in the right place, and I suspect that we'll get our next audit done, and it will be clean, it will be unqualified, which is the best one you want. And I don't expect any issues, and no, I don't really have any problems. I do have some concern maybe that in our investment policy, we're allowed to put a fair amount of money in the overall stock market, and municipalities generally cannot do that. And I just wonder if maybe it makes some sense to look at what small municipal cities are, and that's kind of what we are. We're like a small city, and maybe follow a little bit more about what they do rather than have a bunch of money at risk in the stock market.
Ms. Cutright?
Yes, I have reviewed the financial statements, and I agree with Dan. You know, it's always wise to look and see if you can invest better than what you're doing, but overall, I think Nick has done a fantastic job as treasurer. So, I also feel that the financial statements, I looked at the recent budget, and I was happy to see $50,000 going toward cleaning up our canals. I think that's a great thing. I would even like to see more money going to the revision and update of the website. I know I spoke with Jim about that, and it's a minimal amount, but I think, again, it gets back to communications and keeping our homeowners well informed that we need to have interactive dialogue on our website and the videos posted, so forth, so that you can have a well-informed homeowners group. So there are item lines that I would like to see revised.
Mr. McCabe?
I've looked at everything online. I look at financial statements almost for a living. I've looked at them. I haven't been down to the POA with requests, open records requests. A lot of the relevant information is already either on the POA page or other people have been publishing it, whether it's accurate or not. I tend to believe it is if it looks like an accountant statement or a budget. So, yeah, we've looked at it, and I think there are areas that we can do better on, but I think the board has made great strides in moving towards more transparency. I'd like to see more on the webpage. I think everybody would. I'd like to see some new microphones, but so we don't have to share. So I really don't have a problem. Yeah, I've looked at it, and there's nothing, no smoking gun that jumps out at me and says, aha.
Ms. McFadden?
Yeah, I've spent quite a bit of time over the last few years looking at the financials, doing a lot of records requests for information. The biggest issue with our financials, you know, is access to the information. The only way to get really any access to this information is you really have to know what you're asking for, put a request in. Unfortunately, then Mr. Smock has to put somebody's time aside to go and find it in QuickBooks or find it in the general ledger, and these things are spread across accounts all over the place. It was very difficult if you were trying to track down a specific item. I'm happy to see that with the audit, they're putting together a whole lot more tighter procedures so that certain items in our books end up in the correct account all the time. Certain items would end up spread across multiple accounts, and the only way you could find them is hoping that they maybe put a comment in the memo section. You could not consolidate and find out easily how much was spent in certain information. So with the new procedures being put in place, I'm hoping that's going to be a significant improvement. I'm happy to see that our treasurer Colosi has consolidated all the bank accounts down to 2. I think that's going to help as well.
Mr. Algeo?
Yes, I've been looking at the POA financials for 14 years pretty much, at least at the end, the annual financial report, if not the individual months leading there too. And pretty disappointed to find out that for about, 3 or 4 years, they weren't real. They were just kind of like estimates and some figures didn't work, and it just wasn't right. It wasn't a real representation of what the POA actually had. I think for 1 year, about 4 or 5 years ago, it said that the POA had about 12,500,000. That wasn't right, you know. And so yeah, it's extremely important. I've been looking at them. Yes.
The next question will go to Ms. Cutright. Bulkhead maintenance, question mark. Bulkhead replacement, bulkhead repairs.
That's a very critical issue. We need to make sure that our bulkheads are repaired in a timely fashion, and that homeowners' complaints are responded to in a timely way. I think our new executive director and staff will help in that respect to schedule those repairs and help avoid a lot of issues. It's part, again, of the safety and cleanliness of our environment, and it is a very critical issue. We need to pay more attention to it and get a schedule going.
Mr. McCabe?
Yes, I agree. I have a dry lot, but I overlook the water, and if the bulkheads have a problem, I'm going to see it. The board has budgeted, I believe it's $400,000 for bulkhead maintenance. The maintenance is critical because it's not if, it's when we get into the hurricane. We dodged the bullet last time at 15 miles, and it did hit us, but it did a substantial amount of damage. One thing that I was extremely impressed, I also go to the Island Strategic Action Committee, ISAC. And ISAC in Boone Packard Channel had a great overlay of the channel and what needed to be done. There were red areas on the bulkhead, the restraints. They said, we need to do these right now. There were yellow areas that said, yeah, this needs to be put on the schedule. There were green areas that, yeah, we can probably do that. I'd like to see something here. I don't really have a feel for the condition. We have newer bulkheads, older bulkheads, bulkheads that need repair. I think one of the things I would advocate as a board member is to, where are we on this? We've got 32 miles of bulkheads. Are they all in critical danger? But the key is the maintenance, and I'm very pleased to see in the budget that there is ongoing maintenance, because when we have another storm, that maintenance is going to be critical in mitigating any damage.
Ms. McFadden?
Our bulkheads are our most significant asset, and it is where we spend the largest portion of our budget. I think in the past, I think Brian said it's been about $400,000 a year budgeted. I believe the budget has been increased for 2019 to about $600,000. On large part because we have a very long backlog of, no, it's not working. We have a backlog of reported issues that need to be taken care of. Up until now, though, our bulkhead maintenance has been solely reactive. We also need to start being more proactive. Our bulkheads, many of them are over 50 years old. It's a long time for concrete and metal to be sitting in sand and salt water. We do need to start putting together a proactive monitoring of our bulkheads and track this. I know this was kind of started a couple of years ago and it got a little sidetracked, but we need to do it. But any kind of monitoring needs to also have the cooperation of the homeowners, because it requires us not only to look at the water side of the bulkhead, but also to possibly look at the top and behind the bulkhead, which means we got to go onto property owners' lots. And we're going to have to make sure that the owners are aware and get their permission, and it's a little bit of work, but it is very important.
Algeo?
So if I have the question right, it's bulkheads. What about the bulkheads, I guess? So yeah, obviously that's what the POA was formed to do as its primary mission back in the late 60s. And that's when the bulkheads were built, in the mid to late 60s. There is a lot of need for maintenance and repair. And the POA has been doing that in an ongoing way. I think one of the things that some people may be concerned about or may not realize is that there's no charge to you at your home to get your bulkheads. You know, you can report, if there's a problem with your bulkhead, report it to the POA. Get it in the waiting list, get it prioritized. You know, yeah, some of your decking's probably gonna have to be removed, but the people that do that know how to put it back, and the bulkheads are very important.
Mr. Brown?
Yeah, I'm gonna lump all those questions into kind of bulkhead strategy. I think we have about $9 million plus or minus. Nick can attest to that number, but it's somewhere in that neighborhood. And I think that's gonna be fine for maintenance and ongoing care of our canals and our bulkheads. I think I worry about a catastrophic event, not so much a Category 5, but one that would create wave action. Wave action would be the damage to our bulkheads that could be catastrophic. I'd like to know if it's possible to do a reinsurance policy. I talked to somebody the other day and said we can insure Eloise arm, you know, for quarterback. We probably can find a reinsurance for our bulkheads. Also, if that's not a feasible option, then I think we need to discuss how we can set ourselves up as an organization where we could actually borrow the money to fix it. It's going to have to be fixed. The other thing we ought to do is there's tons of other canal subdivisions in Florida and Alabama that are just like ours. And we ought to talk to those HOAs and see how they do theirs as well.
The next question, we'll go to Mr. McCabe, sorry. Why do you want to be on this board? What skills do you bring to this board that are not covered by other current board members?
I want to be on this board because I live here and I love this place. The only way I want to leave this island is feet first over the bridge. This is my home. I care deeply about it. I believe the skills that I may bring is, again, and not that Marvin's also a lawyer, and I don't intend to be the board's lawyer. The board has retained the services of a very fine attorney. But in my 40 years of practice working with schools, counties, on building high schools, building nursing homes, building all this stuff, I've learned how to make these projects come together and work. When you're dealing with millions of dollars and you've got 6 different lawyers representing 6 different views of point, it can get pretty dramatic, but we find a way to make it happen. So I think that, together with the extensive experience I've had in Section 501 corporations and working with other boards, I think I can bring that to bear.
Ms. McFadden?
I bring a willingness to dig into the problems, do the research, talk to people, come up with a solution, and implement a solution. It's as simple as that.
Mr. Algeo?
I believe the question was, why would I want to be on the board? Well, I've observed it for 14 years, and I believe that it's probably something that I can do pretty well, and I really would like to help.
Mr. Brown?
Yeah, I think I can offer some financial expertise to the board and the community. With what I had to do in my banking career, I had built numerous teams and put together committees, and I think that's all kind of the way HOA works. Different committees can come up with plans to present to the board for consideration. I think more minds are better than fewer minds. And lastly, I'm from Louisiana. We like to have a little fun down there, and I'd like to bring some fun back to this organization. And I think a little levity would be fun. Thanks.
Ms. Cutright?
I deeply love this community, and I have so many good friends around here. And I think I owe it to them as well as I feel it's my responsibility to serve my home community and do the best I can to help boost our property values and create a family-friendly environment where we do have a lot of fun and entertainment, and as well as, you feel safe and secure where you're living, and you don't have to worry about the health of the environment around here either. I think what I bring to the table are communication skills where I can assist in updating our means of communicating with homeowners, which again, I think we will avoid a lot of issues once we do so. And we create this open, interactive dialogue. And the POA can assist in keeping you all well informed in a timely manner. I would love to see more innovative ideas for recreational events and some entertaining events that we can all participate in so we can get to know each other even better. And I've got some ideas for that too I'd like to see implemented.
The next question will go to Ms. McFadden. All candidates, have you ever examined the POA financial books? If not, why not? I think we've covered that one.
Yeah.
All candidates, do you think the audit was necessary? Why or why not?
Yes, I fully supported the audit. There were concerns about our books for many, many years. But when it was discovered in November 2017 that our bookkeeper, who had been our bookkeeper for 7 years, was a felon convicted of felony embezzlement and identity theft, who had access to our financial records, both member records and PIPOA records. That was a shock to me, and I fully supported the audit. I support it now. I am very happy that they're putting procedures in place now to clean up our books, making it easier to get the access to the information, and out of that obviously came the background checks. But I fully supported the audit, and I'm very pleased with the results.
Mr. Algeo?
I believe the question was, do I support the audit, or did I support the audit? Did I think it was necessary? Yeah, essential. To even file the taxes for 2017, we had to have an audit to be able to honestly sign our taxes, for goodness sakes. There's no question there was a need for an audit, yes.
Mr. Brown?
I think a $9 million, $10 million organization has to have an audit. There's no question about that, and I have no problem with that. I'm glad we're doing it. I'm surprised, it took this long to quite candidly get there, but at the end of the day, we have an audit, and that's what matters. So, yeah, it's all good.
Ms. Cutright?
Well, our bylaws and covenants call for an annual audit, but I really think that this more in-depth audit is definitely necessary, and kudos to the POA for doing that and discovering the problem and helping solve it. So, thank you.
Mr. McCabe?
Certainly I agree with an audit. Again, I've done cities with population 250 all the way in the millions. You have to do an annual audit. We have a fiduciary duty to all of us. The board has a fiduciary duty to all the members. We've got to have a method by looking at it. Plus, I agree with Judith, it's required. It may be something that has to be submitted to the Internal Revenue Service. I just can't imagine a world where a POA would not have an annual audit, and I don't think we're in that world.
Mr. Algeo, the next question will go to you. Does the participation level of POA members concern you? Voting meetings today, ? 33 folks out of 5,400.
Does the participation level concern me? And then there was some math there that, I'm usually pretty good at math, but something about 33 here, 33 people here, is that what you're saying? Or is that what the question is asking?
The question says 33 folks out of 5,400.
Okay, all right. I think that people are entitled to attend a meeting if they want to, or they can watch it on the internet, or they can hear about it from their friends or neighbors, or they can just cross their fingers and hope for the best, you know? I mean, I think obviously a majority of people in pretty much any homeowners association would rather not have to deal with it at all. And just know that things are going okay, the money's being taken care of, you're not being robbed, and things are being repaired, and they're doing things in accordance with the law and all that. So if the lack of attendance at meetings is a problem, maybe that's not a problem with a lot of people because they're not that worried about it. I've been pretty worried about it over the years, and I was already used to going to homeowners association meetings, so I got involved, and that's why I'm still here, to be involved for those who don't want to have to be involved and want to be able to just see things run the right way. Thanks.
Mr. Brown?
You know, I brought that issue up at the annual meeting a couple of years ago when it got very vocal. So when you have 35 people or 40 people at a meeting, they are passionate generally and they care deeply, okay? But I also think that if a board of directors looks at that and says this is the entire neighborhood, they're making a mistake. Because like you said, there are a whole lot of people out there that aren't at the meeting, they may be perfectly happy. So I think you listen to the vocal group because they're generally educated about the issues. But I also think you can't just overlook the fact that there's a whole bunch of people out there and if they cared enough, they'd be there.
Ms. Cutright?
Well, I'm impressed with people that are here today, and it's so nice to see you really take interest in what's going on and want to get involved. So I think it's great to have meetings, and the more the merrier. I would love to see even more meetings with neighborhood meetings set up where you can engage more homeowners in conversation and talk informally about their needs and concerns. And so we can handle them. That's what our purpose is, to help you and to handle it and to keep the quality standards of our island up to par. So anyway, I'm all for meetings.
Mr. McCabe?
Yeah, participation, I think, is critical, and people need to know. I walk around and tell people, hey, I'm running for the POA. They look at me with a blank stare and say, what's that? Is that my tax bill? Is that, who are they? And I think there's a lot of people out here that don't know, and I agree with, I guess whoever said it down there, I think it was Bob. A lot of people don't care. They just pay their annual dues and move on with their lives, and that's fine. The people that are here are many of the people that I see at almost every meeting I go to. That participation, I think, is valuable. More participation, people should be free to do that. And again, I'll throw it out to Kelly and Bob for taking it so people can participate in the comfort of their own homes.
Ms. McFadden?
We're an organization of a little over 5,400 members. And you can't call them homeowners because we are very unusual in that we are a organization that encompasses single-family homes, multifamily homes, commercial properties. How many HOAs out there have commercial properties in them? It's very unusual. I was very surprised, for the last couple years as I've been digging into this, realizing the diversity of members that we have. So trying to get all of these people together and to agree on things when the commercial property people have a completely different perspective than the single-family homeowner who just wants to make sure their neighbors clean in their yards. So, the good news is we are seeing a much higher participation rate. Several years ago, they had a hard time getting the quorum for the meetings. They had a hard time getting people to run for the board. Why we all want this job now, I don't know, but apparently we all do, so we're all here. But we do, I think at the last meeting, I think we had a participation rate 25, 26%. That was the highest one ever. So I think people are more engaged, they're more involved, and that's a good thing, and I'm hoping it will only continue to get better.
Mr. Brown, the next question will go to you. If it were proven that a board officer had not been truthful with other board members and POA members, would you vote to remove that individual from holding a position as an officer on the board? Why or why not? Can y'all all agree that that one's gonna happen? What do you believe the role of a POA is in our community? Do you believe that standard rules and laws help keep our community safe and should be enforced? There's some portion of this that I can't read.
Holly, I think we answered that one a couple of questions back.
Do you all agree? A couple of days ago, the director of compliance posted a scathing post at a community neighbor that you liked. This question is directed to Bob.
No, let's not do that.
Oh, this is saying that I hit like on Facebook. That's what that's about.
If you'd like, I'll save it for your.
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty juvenile, but whatever.
If everybody agrees.
It's got to be, the question has to be answered by all of us otherwise.
Yeah, I think these single Bob out.
And I don't like singling Bob out.
Do you all agree that we'll throw that question out?
Mhm.
Okay.
I mean, I have nothing to be ashamed of or anything, but whatever.
Well,
I don't
Bob,
care.
it'll be your opportunity when it's your turn to speak if you'd like to answer if you want to respond to it, something.
Oh, yeah, no, I wouldn't respond to something like that. I mean, just.
Or
it's
closing
not-
remarks.
Yeah, no, thank you though, Polly, I appreciate it.
Mr. Brown, what actions should the POA take to collect past dues and fees, including years of unpaid fees?
Now, Polly, you do realize I'm a banker, right? That's like asking me not to collect a past due loan. Yeah, I think we need to be aggressive. I think we need to hire a law firm that's got specialty in doing such a thing, that's not going to be outrageously expensive to us, that just generates fees for lawyers. I don't think that's good. But I think that the executive director and the staff should do their very, very best to do it. Now, having said that, even the banker's got a little compassion. If the circumstances are that we need to work out payment terms or be compassionate, these are our neighbors, and sometimes you have those situations. But yeah, we don't collect them.
Ms. Cutright?
Again, it's part of the bylaws and covenants that we collect as well as we can. Again, I agree that it's a matter of circumstances that we have to take under consideration, and being compassionate with our neighbors. If they really want to make due diligence and try to pay it back, then we should try to help accommodate them as best we can according to their circumstances. We also need to get good legal advice in order to do that and follow through.
Mr. McCabe?
No, paying your CAM is critical. You got to do it. You got to do it every year. You got to pay the IRS. You got to pay the county. You got to pay the city. You got to pay the school district. If you don't, then yes, steps need to be taken. Ultimately, leading to the hiring of a law firm, and I agree with Dan. That's not expensive. Our firm does that all the time. We don't charge an arm and a leg. We send demand letters, and then we follow up from there. But it's the old death and taxes. Those are two things we can't avoid. And I don't mean to equate a CAMP, common area maintenance fee with taxes, but it's required. If you live there, you got to pay it. If you don't pay it, there are consequences.
Ms. McFadden?
Yeah, I agree. I think all of us agree that all legal means necessary should be taken to collect CAM fees that are due. Again, with some reasonableness. I mean, you can always work out payment plans and things like that, but that does require communications from the property owner. The one thing we haven't done in past years that we really probably ought to take a look at, though, is the bylaws do allow us to charge interest on the uncollected CAM funds. Apparently, I don't believe we've ever done that, and we probably should start taking a look at that.
Mr. Algeo?
Yes, one significant discovery was that the POA wasn't charging the Flower Bluff Independent School District for several acres of property that they owned within our POA. And that, yeah, I know, right. And that seemed to be kind of a mystery as to how that happened. That was going back, actually once Marvin Jones got on the board, I believe that he was able to discover that.
Not sure.
That's what I believe from what I know anyway. And yeah, the Flower Bluff Independent School District has a lot of money. I mean, they get the largest part of the pie of our tax money, over 50%. I think it's slightly over 60% of our tax money. They can pay our POA dues that they owed us. You know, yes, of course those things need to be collected.
The next question will go to Ms. Cutright. What do you think about the grandfather PIPOA CAM fees? Want to fix it? How?
Loaded question, right? Well, I actually think that it's okay if you have been here a long time and you have a grandfather fee and so be it. As far as the new homeowners, you know, adjustments can be made, but for senior citizens especially, I think it's important that they don't have to worry about additional fees in that respect. But if anyone wants to make additional contributions to the POA in order that we can create and follow through on other events or matters that need to be handled, and so then we can encourage that as well, but I don't see a problem with that.
Mr. McCabe?
I think that came into being 10 to 12 years ago. It is there, and there's really nothing we can do about it, and I don't know that we should. I believe the marketplace through attrition, or if I bought a grandfathered house, I don't get a grandfather. It goes away. So it is a problem, and it may take a few years. God help us all, we all live that long, that it's going to work out. So I don't think we can change it, and I don't think at this point we should. That would be unfair to those people in 2007 or 8 that voted for it.
Ms. McFadden?
In the early 2000s,
Excuse me, please. Okay. Please keep your questions to those that you submit here in the box so that we don't take away time from the candidates and you don't distract others who are trying to listen. Thank you so much. I apologize for the interruption.
Ms. McFadden?
in the early 2000s, we were still paying on CAM fee rates that had been set in the 1970s. So, and I'm sure it seemed like plenty of money in 1974 whenever they were first set up, but by 2004, it was a problem. The PIPOA was getting to the point where they couldn't pay the bills. Bob touched on it, that we couldn't do landscaping. Volunteers were going around and doing the landscaping. They couldn't keep up with the bulkhead repairs. Attempts were made to raise the rates without the grandfather clause, and they did not pass. So the solution was to put in the grandfathered rates, knowing that eventually as time passed and properties turned over, the rates would increase. I know many people think it's not fair, but had that deal not been struck, I don't think any of us would be sitting here right now. I think the POA would have gone bankrupt. So I support the deal, and I see no reason to change it at this point.
Algeo?
CAM fees are the common area maintenance fees that make the revenue for our POA to exist. Some people also refer to those as our annual dues. The board cannot change those. The members can. The members can change anything in this POA. All of the power is in the members. People want to blame the board and fear the board can change this, the board can change that. The members of each subdivision have the power in this POA. CAM fees can be changed up, they can be changed down. It's all dependent upon what members get together and want to vote within their subdivision, and vote for what? Yes, no, more money, less money, fix this, fix that. All the power is in the members in this organization. That's the way it's supposed to be. That's the way it's been written.
Mr. Brown?
You know, that question is like asking a politician, do you believe you can raise taxes? I believe that Kelly and Bob here completely adequately summarized that. You know, it wouldn't have gotten done a long time ago if you hadn't compromised that the new owners and the new purchasers, every time a house is sold, would pay the increased rate. And I'm one of those new guys paying the increased rate. But I believe that the only way it got done was, like Kelly said, you had to cut a deal. So a deal is a deal, let's stick with it.
The next question will go to Mr. McCabe. What can the POA do to enhance value for homeowners?
I think the POA can enhance the value by doing its core mission. The core mission is the canals, the bulkheads, the common area, and I think to a certain degree compliance. We seem to, at least on social media, get off on all kinds of tangents, and somebody said, yeah, the POA should fix my pothole, the POA should do this. We have a very defined mission here, and I think by doing that and maintaining the communication, and this question hasn't come up, but it may, I think there are people out there now who look at what Sea Pines did and said, maybe I should do that, or we should do that. I think we've got to make the POA a friendly place and to show the value that we give the homeowners so that they can make an informed decision as to whether or not they don't want to be part of us.
Ms. McFadden?
I agree with Brian. The POA has a core mission to maintain the canals and the bulkheads and also some additional maintenance around the community, but it is actually fairly limited. The problem is that it is so limited, people don't perceive value from the POA. If you don't live on the water, and see them showing up to clean the canals and fix your bulkheads, you might not see much value, and I think we're hearing that loud and clear from the Sea Pines organization. How do we show value to the rest of the community? That's a tough choice. That's something we've been trying to face for a long time. I would like to hope that additional communication, all the things that people talk about all the time, but it is difficult. Like I said earlier, we are a very large, diverse organization, and people have different wants and needs, and it's very difficult to make everybody happy, and we're finding that out. But all we can do is just keep trying and come up with solutions to the problems.
I heard the question as, what can the POA do to enhance the value of living in this property association? So the POA has done a lot of stuff that you can see, with the landscaping, the installation of these monoliths that say this is the POA entrance here. We never used to have that stuff. We used to just have weeds in our entrance medians, and it just was kind of junky. So that's the stuff that you can see. Some of the stuff that you can't see gets talked about a lot, and it's that, can we trust this POA? Why even have a POA? Should we have a POA? And it's important that the POA do things the right way, and that can enhance the value quite a bit. Meanwhile, the things that we want to look at, that we want to use, for example, there's some committees. One of them is the Canal and Waterways Committee. It's a temporary committee, but they've been working pretty hard, and they've been developing a means to which they put to the board to install actual launching docks, or decks, if you will, at the boat ramps. The POA has 7 boat ramps, only one of them, the one on Jackfish Street near the entrance to the island, has a actual dock that doesn't insult your integrity by having to step on a narrow sliver of wood over a bulkhead and nearly break your leg to your gunnel your boat. No, there's a dock there now. And the plan that the Waterways Committee has, and looks like it's going to be funded through our this next year, is to install little wooden docks that you can not break your leg on.
Mr. Brown?
You know, I think the organization has a reputation, whether it's deserved or not, as being a little more, I don't want to use the word bullying, but some people feel that way. I think some of the folks in CPAN said, we're just tired folks constantly telling us what to do. They should be working for us, not the other way around. I'm not sure that's the reality, but that's the way a lot of people feel, I believe, and talking with a lot of people. I think we need to rechange our image a little bit. I think that quarterly we should probably provide something that is tangible for people to see, much like you just said, Bob. An example might be we have a Frisbee golf course out there, a brand new golf course, and you know they're all rusted. And how about this pretty brand new Frisbee golf course out there? Do something once a quarter that people can tangibly see, and let's promote the successes. And when we promote the successes, let's just don't match that up with the negativity of how something got done. Let's promote the successes for what they are.
Ms. Cutright?
I agree with what everyone has said. I would also like to add that I think it's a matter of follow-through on our mission and to maintain and repair the bulkheads and keep up the common areas. I also would like to reestablish the Government Relations Committee because, you know, the city is in charge of certain areas such as Dowden Park, and I think the more we make sure that they keep up their end of the bargain, then we will also be able to maintain those areas as well. And it's going to be much more pleasant environment that we create. I'm also, again, it's all about engaging the homeowners and seeing what they consider ways that we could improve the area and enhance our property values.
The next question will go to Ms. McFadden. What is your quote-unquote big plan for the island business or people living on the island?
Well, I honestly have to say I don't have a big plan. A lot of little plans, but no one big plan. I mean, I'd like to see an increase in the information, especially on the website. We need access to our documents without having to file a request. I'm really happy to hear about the technology increases that are planned, that have already been budgeted for. I believe last year's budget, last year's budget for office technology was around $6,000, you know, for the entire year. And we've been running on technology that, you know, is a decade old and it's very difficult to deal with. I believe that budget has been increased, not quite tenfold, but pretty close. So I am looking forward to the increase in technology, which will allow the increase of information, because information is always a good thing. Homeowners here are hungry for information about their POA, but it has to be made available in such a way that it's not impacting our office staff like it is right now. You put a request in, and they got to go back in dusty cabinets to make copies of things. That's just all wrong. It should all be online, and it should all be available to the members without having to do a member request.
Mr. Algeo?
I'm sorry, again, I'm obviously not as smart as Ms. McFadden. I mean, I'll admit that right off. I'm trying to make sense out of the question. Does the question ask, what is my big plan for business and people living on the island? Is that it, or?
Yeah.
That's it?
What is your big plan for the island business or people living on the island?
Okay. Well, that's kind of a far-reaching question. I say, hey, maybe consider electing me for the board of the directors for the Padre Island Property Owners Association, and let's move forward.
Brown?
I'd say ditto. But, I'll answer, since it's kind of an open-ended, broad question, I'll take the opportunity to get something kind of on the perimeter like Kelly did. One of the things I think our organization can do is we can establish change some of our the way we actually operate in our office. We can have the treasury management services. Our existing bank that we have offices, if not, I know another bank that does. And through purchasing cards, we can be very transparent. So think of it as your personal American Express card. In fact, American Express offers one. You charge online, just like writing checks, you pay all of your bills, and then you debit your account once a month. You get 1.5 points, you get rebates, just like everybody gets on their points for the organization can get the same thing. The beauty of it is that all of those transactions are electronically stored and available to the entire membership. It's an easy download. No additional staffing, less work for the staffing. So I think that technology in banking can help us be transparent and efficient.
Ms. Cutler?
My big plan is to improve communications between the board and the homeowners and members of the POA. And in order to do that, I think we need to update the website and make it more interactive. I think we need to establish a government relations committee so that we get the city to respond more quickly to the needs of our community. And I think we need to engage our members and encourage them to implement the best practices as well as keeping up their properties. And I think it will all happen if we engage them and help them become more active in all of our individual efforts.
Mr. McCabe?
I agree with everybody here. I'm not sure what the big plan is, and if I have one that I can define. It's the things that we've talked about. It's following the law, it's getting to our core mission and doing that, and I think it's developed over the past several days that we can do a little better in projecting what the value of the POA is so that people understand it and want to stay. I'd like to flip that question as to why do we want to leave to why do we want to stay? We need that. Make sure that assets that we do have are properly maintained. Just bring some harmony back here. When I was fishing for a campaign statement, kind of jokingly, it was make the POA dull again. It might be. As much as I like that. There's no reason that any one of us, y'all don't elect 2 of us, and I think you're going to make a good choice with any of us. I think the existing board members are good people. So we can get back to some harmony that we've been sorely lacking.
The next question will go to Mr. Algeo.
I can answer that.
Okay, this card is directed specifically at Kelly McFadden, to Kelly McFadden. Would y'all like me to set it aside, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You all agree?
I think we all have to answer the questions, and I don't.
What are the POA's top 4 priorities?
Bulkheads. And then common area maintenance and doing things right for the members, the way the members want. Again, the power is really in the members, and if members organize, you can change anything any way you want in your subdivision.
Mr. Brown?
Yeah, I'd say bulkheads, and I'd say the canals, and they're kind of 2 separate because, dredging the canal is not fixing a bulkhead. I'd say getting the finances of the organization continuing. They're not in bad shape, just continuing to kind of tweak them, and let's get a little more efficient at that. And then lastly, I think that on our compliance committee, perhaps we need to be a little kinder, gentler.
Ms. Cutright?
Again, I think it's, as the others have said, the common area maintenance and the bulkheads, because that's what we are responsible for. I would also say maintaining our quality standards and creating a more family-friendly environment that's safe and healthy as well. And it all goes back to communications.
Mr. McCabe?
Well, the question was for, and I think all of us have really done a good job of emphasizing where we come from. First is, to me, is we've got to be legal, and I think I can bring that, again, the same analysis of bylaws, federal, state, et cetera. The committees, we have, again, a tremendous amount of knowledge and wealth on this island that I think we can utilize and are utilizing to a large degree. And then I'll compare it off here. Bulkheads, you know? I mean, that's what makes it work. And that's where I appreciate, I misquoted, again, earlier budget was $400,000, I said $600,000. We got to keep those things up. We've got to mitigate any damage that may occur or will occur when we get another hurricane.
Ms. McFadden?
Well, I'm going to make it 5 for 5 and say bulkheads. So, I mean, that is a core mission of our POA. You know, but I really do think one of the things that I know we keep talking about it every year, and I think every year it is getting a little better, but we need to focus on communications with the homeowners. I know it's not working. So, but what? Okay. Okay, thank you. Is this one working? Okay. But communications with the homeowners, which also ties into the whole access of information that I'm really supporting. Ultimately, it needs to boil down to showing value to the community of the POA, and if we can show some value, I think a lot of the unhappiness will disappear.
The next question will go to Mr. Brown. In the past, a board member has mocked homeowners during meetings and called at least one member a liar at a board meeting. Will you pledge to conduct yourselves in a civil and professional manner during board meetings?
My motto is a gentleman is someone who can disagree without being disagreeable. I'm not going to give credit. I'm not going to talk about that. So.
Ms. Cutright?
Well, I pledge to treat everyone with dignity and respect. And I think in that case, they weren't following the Robert Rules of Order, which are very important in having an efficient, well-conducted meeting. So that's very important to do.
Mr. McCabe?
I agree with Dan. I mean, we treat doing to others as we would have them doing to us. That particular incident, we need to treat everyone here. We're all stakeholders. We all live here. And again, I go back. We all live because we want to, not because we have to. And we are entitled, the board, to treat each other with respect, and the audience to treat the board with respect. I think it's a two-way street. And so, yeah, to be civil, yes, I will be civil. Be hopefully non-confrontational, yeah. That's all possible. And to a large degree, it happens. It's back to the question asked earlier, there's a small percentage of people that there's nothing you're going to do to make them happy, but most people are going to be fine. And if you treat people with respect and dignity, I think we can move forward.
Ms. McFadden?
We are a business, and all of us have worked in the business world. And when you work in the business world, you agree to deal with other employees and your customers and everything you deal with. You agree to deal with everybody in a respectful and professional way. And that shouldn't be any different here. I pledge to treat everybody respectfully and professionally.
Mr. Algeo?
So the answer to that should be a given, of course, for anybody to be on a board. Yeah, you need to treat everybody with respect. I took almost 4 years out of my career where I was a crewman on search and rescue helicopters for the Coast Guard so that I could serve as the district representative for civil rights in this 8th Coast Guard district, which runs from Florida all the way down not only to the south part of Texas, but it includes New Mexico because they have some aids and navigation units in there that are big, tall antennas, mile high. So, yeah, I thought that I was a respectful person before I started that job, but I tell you what, they burn you through training for about 4 or 5 months, and they really teach you what respecting other people is about.
The next question will go to Ms. Cutright. Will you pledge to have a criminal background check? What are you planning on doing to control construction trash?
Interesting. Well, again, we get back to the bylaws and covenants, and it is our responsibility to ensure that we don't have all of that trash around, especially if it's interfering with the right-of-way. Not much you can do if something's under construction, which I guess is that what you mean? If a home is under construction and it's on that personal property, then you can't do it. As long as it's, if it's a safety hazard in any way to your neighbors, then it's got to be handled. And the compliance committee should be handling that. And if it's interfering with the traffic right away, also that's got to be handled immediately. It's not something that you can wait to handle. So that's the way I think would be best.
Mr. McCabe?
Oh, if anything, I've seen it improve. I admit I don't drive up and down every street on the island, but it seems like the builders are getting the message that we can't do this anymore, guys. As Judith said, if it's a safety issue, and I'll expand on that, if it's in our storm water drainage, if it gets in there, it's going to make a mess. And I think the builders are getting the message, and I think we can reinforce to the builders that, yeah, we're serious. Build a house. We know it's a messy job. Of course it is. You're going to have stuff. But clean it up before you leave. Make a clean job site. Get the stuff out of the street. And again, I applaud the fact that I see it happening. And some builders are always going to be there, and they're always, it's just not going to work. But I think through the compliance, the builders can voluntarily, they don't want a messy job site either, most of them.
Ms. McFadden?
I think there has been an increase of ongoing communications with the builders to make sure that they are aware of their responsibilities. I think also homeowners need to be aware that instead of just posting concerns on social media, call the PIPOA. You know, Jim will take your phone call, and they will do what they can to clean it up. So this might have to do with kind of what Judith's been talking about, communications, to make sure that the members know that they can call and try and get some help. The compliance team that's in the office, they're willing to go out and take a look. They're also willing to get the city involved. We have Kathy in the office who is coordinating with the city when builders aren't cooperating. And so things are happening, but ultimately it can only happen if the POA is made aware of the situation.
Mr. Algeo?
Yes, there's the expression, you have to break eggs to make an omelet, but that doesn't help the neighbors of people next door to where houses are being built, where there's no silt fence, where there's no bin for the trash, which is required. All these things are required through the city code enforcement. And I would say that in addition to just calling the Property Owners Association, unfortunately, the covenants don't get very specific with regard to these essential things that city code enforcement requires for houses under construction. So it's important to keep our homeowners aware that our city has people on salary and they have actual laws, codes, city codes of law for those kinds of things. And if you don't make a squeaky wheel, you're not going to get heard by the city. So people need to be aware and be calling the city more frequently when they have problems that involve city codes. And our POA can help when possible. Sometimes it's a little bit of a stretch if there's not actual covenants written to help. And I hope that our homeowners can be aware of that.
Mr. Brown?
You know, this is kind of an interesting question because we don't have an unlimited supply of lots on the island. And within a short number of years, this won't be an issue because there won't be any new construction to deal with. And that's a good thing. All of our property values will go up. And in the interim, though, I think what they've said, everybody has said is, let's talk to the builders, get the POA to do that. But the city, I mean, we need to have a very, very close, strong relationship with the city of Corpus Christi so that when we ask them to do something, they jump. I don't think we're there yet.
I was just informed that that will be the last question, and we're going to have closing statements. You'll each be given 2 minutes, Ms. McFadden.
This is a copy of our, This is a copy of our Articles of Incorporation. This is a copy of our bylaws. This is one set of 32 covenants, similar from most, but mostly the same. This is Property Code 209. You hear us talk about this all the time. It's called the Homeowner Protection Act. We are obligated to abide by it. This book was written by Cable, who is our board attorney. He's considered the top guy on Texas HOA law. We're lucky to have it. Okay? These are the documents that I read every day. Okay? I don't have time to read Dan Brown's latest bestseller. I don't own a copy of 50 Shades of Grey. There are no gray in our governing documents. If elected, I will always be aware that I must earn your trust every day, and I will always follow the law. This board seat belongs to the members. I ask you today to trust me with this seat. I ask you to check my name on the ballot.
Mr. Algeo?
Yeah, well, I guess this is the part where we give our closing statements about why you should vote for me. And you're voting for 2 people. So I hope that I'm one of them. That's why I'm running for this position. I think I can help. And I want to. Stuff about the legal aspects of our POA is the structure of our POA. It's the most important thing. I understand that kind of stuff. Not as good as I would say Ms. McFadden does. I mean, I've learned so much from the McFaddens with regard to bringing up the specifics beyond just our covenants. I believe I have read every subdivision covenant in detail, and they're very similar. But again, my thing is about individual members' rights, our individual property rights, and that the power is collectively amongst all the members of this organization, from subdivision to subdivision. You can make anything happen, and people need to know that. And I'm all for getting people help to let them know what they can do to change covenants in their subdivision if they want to do that. It's not impossible to do it. And the last covenant subdivision changes were in 2007. And I hope that we'll start seeing some again pretty soon. And I'm here to help with that. We can change things to get them the way you want them, subdivision by subdivision.
Mr. Brown?
Well, thank you all for being here, and I'm really impressed with the bladder control you people have. I, like Kelly, carry the restricted 209, the articles, the bylaws, and my individual filing documents at all times with me whenever I go to an official meeting. I think it's important that if the questions get answered, you might have to research it, but at least you can kind of go to it. I'm super impressed with these people up here, guys. You don't have a bad choice, in my opinion. I would appreciate your vote. I think I can bring a little financial expertise to the organization, maybe a sense of calm, and that's why I would like you to vote for me. Thank you.
Ms. Cutright?
Again, I want to thank you for being here, and I really appreciate your input. Again, I feel that I bring some communications expertise to the table. I will be available to listen to you and to your needs and help you in any way I can to resolve your issues. I will follow the bylaws and covenants of the POA, and I will really strive hard to engage you in any way I can, and that includes bringing some new innovative ideas to the table and updating the website and keeping you posted, because the power is with you, and we are here to serve you, and I intend to do so. So I'd be very honored to be your servant.
Okay.
Commending again Jim, Polly, and staff. They invited me, which was kind of cool. I think we've all gone over where we think we are, and my campaign slogan was not what I said it is, it's we can do better. I think there's been tremendous progress made over the last 10 years in all the areas that we've discussed, but we can do this better. I believe that my 40 years plus experience in dealing with every manner of board, commission, city council, school board, you name it, particularly not-for-profit corporations, section 501. That's pretty intricate stuff. Like Kelly and I think Dan said, I've got all this stuff printed. It's all over my house. I read it constantly. I read the law, and what I would hope to bring is to, again, follow the bylaws that come from the state, federal law. And I'd really like to close on what Dan said, which is, let's make it fun, too. So I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for coming. I'd like to thank the candidates who were here this morning. I'd like to thank Polly, who did another stellar job, in my opinion, at being our moderator. And most importantly, thank you. Thank you for taking time out of a Saturday morning. Saturdays are typically busy days, errand days, and so thank you. Thank you to the people at home who are watching. It's all about you and for you. Again, we will do this next month here, Thursday, February 21st. Beginning at 6 to 8. The format that we use today will be the format that we will use then. In the meantime, I am, and still, Jim Smock, jim@pipoa.net. Questions, comments, complaints, good jokes, always, not so good jokes are always appreciated. And of course, 949-7025. One last bit of information. The next board meeting will be here Tuesday, February 26th, beginning at 5:30, and you will be getting reminders and all that good stuff. So thank you again for coming. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and thank you again, Polly, and thank you all of you. Thank you very much.
Oh.